live. Guys, welcome to the All Leads Suck podcast. We have April. We're going to do a reverse interview today with. Thank you for coming,
Yeah,
April.
I'm excited to be here. Be ready.
This will probably be the very first reverse interview podcast.
Wow.
I've never seen a reverse interview podcast.
Yeah.
We appreciate you agreeing.
Well, we've been talking all before this. We should have had the cameras rolling.
Yes, we should have.
Definitely.
We
Hopefully
should
he
have.
was.
So
Okay.
Thursdays are typically the busiest day, or the lightest day for you, but today it was busy.
Yeah, I usually leave Thursdays open for whatever comes up in the week. That way I can just plug it in on Thursday. But, anytime Thursday rolls around, then there's 10 million things that I have to do. So that's what was going on today is craziness before I came in here.
That's fine.
Good crazy.
So you're ready to ask us questions that you're curious about?
Yeah, I'm totally curious. I got a lot of questions. So really first, I'd love to know, I just feel like suddenly you entered on scene. You two, especially, I know Dominic from Cash Geek, so he didn't really enter on scene for me, but you entered on scene. I seeing your name, especially on Facebook, and I'm like, this guy really kind of knows what he's doing. So I'm just curious, your story, how you guys came together, and when it all started for you.
You want to start?
Sure. So I started in real estate probably 3 or 4 years ago. I went the traditional route of being like a buyer's agent, working for a team. And I met Sam there at that team.
Okay.
So I'm not originally from.
So you were both agents.
Yes.
Real estate agent.
Yes.
That is so funny.
Yeah. So not originally from Jacksonville. So I figured the team would be the best way to kind of learn and grow your.
Yeah, that's a great way to learn. Yeah.
So that agency was super retail based, and he and I were really the only ones who were into investments, multifamily, fix and flips, things like that. So we started talking, and he brought me in on some off market deals that he had. And basically I sold them and I split the money with him, and he's like, no, don't even give me that. Just give me this. I didn't do anything. And
so this is right out of college, or were you working somewhere else before this? And then what
was education?
No,
so.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do.
No. Yeah. So I'm a 2-time college dropout.
Great.
I wish that I had just gotten out of college, but unfortunately,
exactly. I'm still paying mine.
34.
I'm 42.
Yeah. So college was a long time ago for me.
Okay.
So I had worked for a e-commerce tire business up north, and we did really well. Had a pretty good role over there. That company sold. They let me stay on board for another year and kind of continue doing what I was doing. So I moved down here for that year, worked from home, and kind of just figured out okay, what's the next step? What am I going to do next? And my parents did real estate when I was a kid. They did slow flips living in homes.
Yeah.
So I was always used to projects and switching homes every 3 to 5 years.
So you have some generational real estate going on.
Yeah. And my mom does mortgages too. So real estate's in our family.
Okay.
So came down here, got into that agency, met him. We did 1 or 2 deals together, and I'm like, dude, you keep bringing me deals. You have all these opportunities. I don't know where to find them. You understand this stuff. Here's the deal. I want to work with you.
Yeah.
Instead of me just giving you 15 or 10% of the profit, let's just go 50-50. And he's like, no. It's you want to take the money, and I'm like, just take it. Didn't matter. Yeah, so I gave him,
So what was it? You would bring the deals, and then you had the buyers, or what?
He had all the off-market networking.
Okay.
He knew. I didn't know about Yellowbird at this point. I was such in the in the retail world that I didn't know that was out there. I'm not a big Facebook guy. So I just didn't know that there was that whole industry.
Yeah, he's the young guy, so he's well. Actually, old people are on Facebook, but
yes,
you are in the socials. You're the young guy.
He is.
So you entered in in the real estate. As the off market side, the investor side. But why'd you join the
team?
Yeah, the team. We're gonna call it the team.
We can say it's DJ and Lindsay.
Oh, okay.
I think they're pretty known in Jacksonville.
They are.
They are.
I don't know why Louis always likes to keep it a secret.
No,
They're pretty
I
sad
want to
that you're
get
not
paid for
there
that
anymore, I
marketing.
guarantee.
Well, I have a pretty good relationship with them still,
They can send you deals.
Well, and that's the thing is,
Right.
we try and do business with them if we can.
Yeah. So I got to Jacksonville in 2020, I believe.
Oh, wow.
2020 or 2020 or 2021. And initially I was just looking for investments for myself. I had just sold my previous business in Los Angeles and I moved here.
Which was?
It was a tour company.
Oh.
I used to be a tour guide showing people celebrity houses.
So you're an entrepreneur already. Like you need to move into okay.
And essentially the company that I had, everybody was showing celebrity homes. I figured out a way to get people inside the houses.
Of course you did.
Yeah, and so I had the only tour that would get people inside the houses.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So when the big C happened, then, my entire business pretty much got shut down because I got like $30,000 or $40,000 in cancellations in 1 week. Because all the people that had booked in advance, now their flights are canceled. They can't come to the country, and most of the travel crowd is from Europe or the countries around surrounding. So I just got all those cancellations and I exited that space at the worst time I could have.
Yeah.
I took like pennies on the dollar for the business and just got out. So that's when I moved here, but I kind of was happy because I wanted to get into something that had more to do with finances.
Yeah.
And my initial thought process was, well, if I'm going to deal with finances, I want to deal with assets that are priced higher. And that led me to real estate.
So that's why you came to Jacksonville, because we have the high priced assets.
Well, initially,
spots.
I started doing some research and I was trying to basically enter the market in LA, Southern California in general. And it was just so out of my realm. It was like you start playing a game and you go to level 85 instead of starting at level 1. So then I was like, this is just not viable. I have to look for undervalued markets. So then I started looking into Texas and Florida. And I traveled between like 3 or 4 cities in Texas. One of the most particular ones was Dallas. But the reason I didn't like Dallas was it has very bad soil. So almost every house has foundation issues.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it has super high property taxes. So the property taxes in Texas are like 2 to 3% on houses. And then also one other thing that I hated, most of the freeways or the high-speed highways, you have to pay for them to enter.
Yeah.
It's like, this is ridiculous. Why do you have to pay to drive a car?
People live there though.
Yeah. So I just didn't like that market for those reasons mainly.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit pricey at the time too.
Mm-hmm.
So then I came to Florida and I went to a few different cities here, Orlando, Tampa. I went to Fort Lauderdale and then Jacksonville. And then Jacksonville, I ended up finding the most amount of deals in. So I just stuck around.
So how'd you find your deals in the beginning?
Just Zillow, MLS, Facebook, for sale by owners.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just getting after it.
Yes.
And then you would bring him.
At first, we didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I first moved here, the first 2 years, I was just looking for deals. I wasn't even looking to get a real estate agent license or anything like that. I was just looking to pick up a triplex or a fourplex. So the first deal I found, it was a Zillow, the deal off of Zillow. I called the agent, went to the house, met with her. It was 3 units, but it was 3 units because it was a house with a basement on University Boulevard.
A basement.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How's that basement?
It's good, but well, it's built on a slope.
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of a basement, but it not really isn't.
Right.
So it had 2 units on the bottom and 1 large unit on the top. So I negotiated a deal and I got it under contract for $245,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was triplex basically. It had been listed for $300 for like 30 or 40 days. And one thing that I noticed is that agent listed the house as a single family home. And it's like, this is a multifamily, and everybody who's looking for multifamily missed that opportunity.
Wow.
So I finagled the deal and I made it happen. And long story short, it was vacant and one unit was occupied. And the guy that lived in one of the units, he was a very old guy. And at one point, while we were under contract, he dies.
Oh my gosh.
So then the next day, I drive by the property and it looks like it's been vandalized after he dies.
Oh.
So I find out from the agent that the sons of that guy went to the house and started looking for cash. His kids came in, started looking for money, anything valuable, had drinks at the place, and then they just left it like that. So I use it to my advantage because at the time I'm just staying in a motel. I'm like, listen, I'm super worried about this property and I really want to buy it and I'm going to go through with this. I need to move in there to prevent this from happening. So I negotiate a move in and just take care of the utilities while I'm under contract to purchase it and basically guard it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they let me move in. I move into the apartment where the guy died because that's the apartment that had the furniture.
Typical Sam.
Yep. So I move in there, and then a month later, I get denied with my loan. So I can't buy it.
Oh.
Negotiate an extension for a week, go through another lender, get denied again. Negotiate another week, get denied again. So I got denied 3 times on that one house.
Was it because of the basement?
No, so essentially it was because of me. I was using my previous business's incomes and the last 2 years of tax returns, and the business stopped making money as soon as I left. And so it was super tough for me to make that happen. So, long story short, I had to cancel the contract. I didn't even know that you can have a finance contingency and get your deposit back. And whenever I did extensions, I extended the contract, but I didn't extend the finance contingency. So I lost out on like a $4,000 deposit, and it just went to the seller. Now that place sold for cash to somebody who's running a rehab center out of it. And like every day I drive by, I'm like, oh my God. And I lived there too, so all the memories. But essentially, I went back to LA to regroup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went back to LA to regroup, see what I could do to, get cash coming into the bank so that I can actually qualify for a loan. Figured it all out. And I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm still going to go back. So I found, I started cold calling. I skip traced the list. I started cold calling, and I found a guy that was ready to sell me his house for like 40% ARV, and it was going to be a flip. So I found a money partner who was going to fund it for me, and I decided that I would just go back there, do the flip, make some money, and then I'd have more money to go buy a multifamily property. So
he needs to buy this multifamily.
I did, yes. So I did all of that. I raised the money. They committed to everything. We even opened the LLC, money in the bank. I fly over there to, contract the property. The guy's ready to sign. I go to the house. We sign the agreement. I get a contractor out there to give me a bid. First day, we find out that this is not actually a 2-story house. It was a 1-story house that was on stilts, and they enclosed the stilts and made it 1 floor.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, you basically need to either raise the whole house or you need to knock it down and build a new house. Yeah, because the first floor is not going to qualify. It's too short. First floor is not going to, yeah. And there's just, you can't tell that by virtual photos.
Yeah.
Right? So I end up canceling the contract. And now I'm stuck in a motel again. So long story short, I then end up finding another opportunity with a landlord that owns a lot of properties in Springfield area. And one of the other properties that I was looking at and I really wanted to buy was a 4-plex in Springfield. It was a brick quad. And at the time I tried to make an offer on it, he already got it under contract with someone. So on the same day I cancel this deal, that deal becomes available on the market. I call him up immediately. I'm like, what's going on? And he tells me that the guy that was buying it was going to buy it with a VA loan.
Yeah.
And he got, essentially, he was trying to buy it and declare bankruptcy to keep the property because it would have been his primary residence. And he's like, he just declared bankruptcy too soon and he got denied in his loan.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but that's a great opportunity for me. I contracted the property the same day. I negotiated for me to move into one of the units while I was under contract. And then that was my very first investment. And then I just started doing a lot of construction work, and I started remodeling the units one by one. And while I was doing it, I needed money to remodel these units. I just figured I gotta find other opportunities and try to sell them to other investors.
Yeah.
So I can put cash in my pocket and remodel these units.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then, I wholesaled a couple of deals. I made like $30,000 to $50,000 in a few months. Just door knocking in the neighborhood.
It's that easy. It really is.
Mhm.
Everybody always wants to complicate it.
I guess. So yeah, I was just door knocking and calling.
How many doors were you knocking on?
I have no idea. I don't count.
Do you just go out there
just
all
sit in the
day,
morning.
every day?
So
we need to people need to know, like, if they're gonna go out, like you just said, I made 30 to 50,000 in a couple months. Like, what does that take?
It's super important for you to have metrics and try to
Right.
stick to the metrics. But really, when you're like, I was just super committed. I would wake up at like 8:30, I would literally pick the streets. I would go to like 25th Street, and then I would make my way down to like 17th Street
Wow.
throughout
And
the whole day.
you just knocked on everybody's
Every
door.
single
Every
door.
door.
Doesn't matter.
Right. So you don't need to like go and pull a pre-foreclosure
No.
list and pinpoint the
No.
map and then drive all over and not. That's what I always say. Like, go into a neighborhood and knock on every single door.
I would
Yep.
just go. They say
And
no.
you would
next.
just go all day long, 10,
Yes.
12 hours a day.
Yes.
Yep.
So
I'd just go 10
you
to
don't
12
know how
hours.
many doors.
No.
Would
I
you count though?
Not really. I would just start at 8:30 and I'd finish at around like 6
So
or
then
7.
what's your metrics? Then you go back to that neighborhood a week later and do it again?
Go to another neighborhood. But most of my deals came from that one neighborhood.
Yeah.
I just started.
And because this is Springfield and over
Correct.
there on the north
Historic.
side.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just try to figure, I don't want to go to like Avondale or San Marco. There's probably not going to be a lot of opportunities there because there's nothing to fix up.
Yeah.
Right?
You have some grit.
So you just go to the undervalued neighborhoods.
This kid's wild. Like so being at DJ and Lindsay, we had Zillow leads. So like I was used to calling people who wanted to talk to you, people who were interested in buying something or selling something. So when he's like, we're just gonna go door knock, I'm like, what? Why would we go knock on these people's doors? They don't even know who we are.
We're getting deals.
Why would we do that? So what had ended up happening is we were doing really well at DJ and Lindsay. We did a ton of deals with them. And then when we made our first wholesale deal, I was like, oh shit, I didn't know you could make this kind of money. Like I've been seeing checks that are 10% of this.
Yeah.
So I was like thrown back and he's like, oh, this is nothing. Like I've done probably like 20 of these in the last 6 months of the last year. So I don't know if you remember that scene in Wolf of Wall Street where he's like, show me your paycheck and I'll quit my job right now. And we go back to his house and he's got all of his checks lined up and I'm like counting through them and I'm like, all right, cool. I don't care about retail anymore. This is all we're doing now. And
so I'll go door knocking.
Yeah, like how do we do it?
Did you go?
Yeah, so we would drive around. We would door knock in the rain. We would drive around in the rain and then hop out and just start knocking and see what we could do. I mean, we've done it in every neighborhood. But in historic Springfield.
So how long ago was this? Like 2022 then?
2022.
Probably 20.
And so how long did you do this for before you like made the next step? Like what did the transition look like into the next step?
So I joined to the retail side too. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And I figured, I'm already doing all these real estate deals. I might as well just get my license. And, I was doing well with agents too, because some agents will bring me deals.
Yeah.
And essentially I got my license. I joined the team. I didn't even care about splits. What are the splits with the broker, this, that. I was like, where do I have the most amount of education if I join?
Right.
And that was that DJ and Lindsay team, because they just basically tell you how to make money. And they show you how to generate leads and how to work the leads. Right. So it's a machine. Yeah. Right. So you go through the education, and whether you make 100% of your commission or 50% of your commission should always be the secondary thing.
Yeah. Right.
Because you can always quit and then go somewhere else, and then now you have all the systems that you can utilize. Right. So I joined, I did like 45 or 50 retail transactions. And meantime, I still, kept doing investment properties.
Yep.
So that's kind of how, I met Dom and G and Hayden.
Okay.
Because we started doing deals together too, and I started doing deals with other people and JVing with them, including Lewis.
Yeah.
So Lewis was the only person in the team that was interested in anything investments. And yeah, basically, we just started doing deals from the network too. So our door knocking, I mean, we did deals off of that, but the next step was how do we make this a repeatable process so we don't have to hustle as much?
Yeah.
And then I didn't have the nerve.
Really, you have to hustle as much, just a different kind of hustle, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
You're not necessarily outside in the rain.
Exactly. Or getting screamed at on somebody's doorstep.
Right.
Now, I'm a very, people like to say that I'm mean or rude or I'm like straightforward with people. And that's just my personality.
Oh, I don't think you're mean and
I don't think so either. I think I'm a very
not at all.
But everybody, for some reason, thinks I'm mean and rude and too straightforward.
Yeah.
And most agents, when they would ask me for advice or like, how do I make sense of this investment property, or how can I even, make sense of this? I wouldn't have the
time or patience.
The patience to go through explaining everything to them. I would just be like, here's the number you have to pay. Here's what you have to, sell the property for, or here's what you have to pay, and here's how much you charge in rent, and this is where it would be a good deal. And Lewis, on the other hand, would take the time and explain things to them and chew it down for them. And even if it was a shit deal, he wouldn't say it's a shit deal.
Yeah.
He would have said, well, let's try to change this and let's try to talk to the seller.
I'm the people person.
But I've heard you on the phones, though. I mean, you do that with sellers. You take them through.
Right. But if you're an agent.
But you're an agent. You should know. So that's where his patience stops.
His expectation of what you should know is so much higher.
But really, people don't know.
No, they have no idea. And especially at the brokerage we're at, everybody's very well informed on how to do retail transactions, but they're not thinking about what's the ROI, what's the opportunity on this cash that I'm spending. They're not thinking about those things. So that's where I was trying to educate them, which is funny because now we're actually trying to educate people on Zoom and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I would spend most of my time in the office just telling people stuff, because they bring in about 20 to 30,000 incoming leads per month at DJ and Lindsay. So I'm looking around and I'm like, there's 65 people in here. We're bringing in 25,000 leads a month. There's got to be shit houses in these leads. And I know this girl in high heels and this miniskirt, does not want to go walk around in those streets and flea infested houses. So I'd be like, hey, I know that it's a $50K house and you're looking at it like it's $1,500. Bring it to me and I'll get you 3,000.
Wow.
And then we would just come across so many.
Wow.
So because they were incoming leads, they trusted the real estate agent, and we were never the agent. We were always the cash buyer.
Right.
So it was always like, look, I'm not good for listing this, but I have a guy who will buy it. And then that's when we would essentially just step in and take over and kind of just do the whole deal.
Do you work with any of those people?
I work with a bunch of them.
That's
still.
Awesome. Yeah, I love working with
I haven't been there.
Agents that bring you leads.
I haven't been there in a year and a half or two, and some girl called me yesterday and she's like, hey, they want to go with Open Door. Would you do a deal with them instead of Open Door? And I'm like, cool, let's just do it. And I ended up talking them down less than what Open Door was going to give them, because I said, they may give you this. I'm 100% going to give you this.
Right.
And you want to move in 3 weeks, so let's just move forward.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't even want the money. I actually want the house that they're buying, and I can't get that house unless they sell this, and I can't sell this house that fast. So it doesn't matter to me, and we'll still take care of her. But for her, she's looking at it and she's like, I'm not going to make any money.
Right.
It's not worth my time, and I can't do it that quick.
Right. She's going to make money over on the other property.
Right. So we would make it a point to really take care of people, and they were like, whoa, that was a lot more than I was expecting. So because of that, they just kept bringing us all the stuff that they didn't want or they couldn't use.
So that was the next.
Yeah. That's
cool.
Was
the next step was just basically networking and educating agents to find opportunities. So he would, because at the end of the day, I would put those deals together,
Yes.
but I couldn't filter those agents
Yeah.
to actually like get to the good deals that actually are going to perform.
Right.
And Lewis would serve as that filter.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're getting the, like, I know you guys aren't buying every single one of them. So this is where then you're JVing with like Cash Geeks at the time because they were still around, and you were finding people that you could JV with, and they would be the dispo.
Correct.
Were you building your own buyers list at the time, or
we were building
it seems
an
like you guys
agents.
had a lot going on.
We were building
We
an
did.
agents list.
Yeah, we were building an
Right.
agent sellers list essentially.
Agents that would sell our deals that came from other agents.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. We would do that too. And then we had a couple buyers who were like,
Because
I'll
there's
just buy
agents that
anything
have
and
investor buyers.
everything.
Yes.
And you find those agents that
Yeah.
have the investor buyers, which are, because sometimes they'll be from like Israel
Yep.
or
That's our best guys.
California, and they're looking and
We've
they're
had-
buying cheap houses in Jacksonville, Florida. You can buy a house for like $15,000.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
We had a guy
Like
who's
nowhere else can you buy houses.
we had a
like
guy
that.
from Israel who said to us, my toilet in California costs more than the house that I purchased here in Jacksonville.
Right.
And I decided to move as soon as I figured that out.
Yeah.
And he would call us up and he'd be like, I have so much money to spend right now. You guys don't have any deals. You're not even working. You guys don't even care about me.
That is hilarious.
And we were like, shit, well, what do we do?
Do you
and
still
we,
have that guy's number?
We do. And we figured out like what his price per square foot was. So we would just look on the MLS. We would talk to people and be like, listen, as long as I'm at this price per square foot, we have a buyer. And we would just reverse engineer basically all of these transactions that we were doing to get them to him or to other people similar. Because we knew if it worked for him, it's got to work for a few other big people like him.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we really started with that process, which a lot of our beginning deals were all in Springfield and then essentially just started like growing out from there.
Yeah.
And this was still at the time too when hedge funds were buying.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where Cash Geeks came in because they had that whole hedge fund process, and we would get.
But they weren't buying like in the Springfield area.
No.
usually,
We were
but,
getting nice houses
yeah,
too.
and then you would get the nice houses and sell them.
That we needed to sell. So we had a house like up in Yulee that was like basically brand new. It was a big ass house, and we're like, well, what do we do? This lady's begging us to buy this, like, and she's willing to do it at a discounted rate. So we would get it to a hedge fund, or I'd have agents that are like, my house isn't selling for 90 days. These people have a house to buy. They're about to lose their contingency money. Like, we'd be like, okay, cool. This is what we can offer. And we'd go sell it to a hedge fund.
Okay, so, all right. So you're doing all this. You're at DJ and Lindsay. Like, what does it look like? Like, we always talk about this. Like, when does it turn from a hustle into a business, right? Because you're hustling. You have all these balls in the air. You've got all these people. Like, were you guys using DJ and Lindsay CRMs, or were you using your own?
We didn't even have a CRM.
Right, like just using notebooks in your head. Like, I know how many deals I've got in my head.
That's literally what we were.
So when did it start turning from a hustle into a business? Like, what does that transition look like? Because I think everybody always wants to know what that looks like.
Well, so we were slowly making that transition because we were trying to build like our own Podio, but he was remodeling units, he's building a house. We're also doing wholesale deals, we're doing retail deals. So it was so hard for us to kind of like stop and really focus on building it. So it was like months and months and months. But I would say probably 2 years ago, we really settled down and we're like, all right, we have to focus on this and create something out of Gary's garage, right? That's the time. Because we were working out of his apartment at the time.
We were working out of my apartment initially.
Yeah.
And it actually hurt us more because once we started trying to build Podio and build a website.
Because you have to take some of your focus. You guys are working like 12-hour days.
Oh, yeah.
And now you need a couple hours to build Podio, and there's still got to be some time to eat and sleep.
Yep.
Yeah. And I actually, when we started, I told Louis the goal, this was the very beginning. And this is why I told him, like, I don't know if I really want to partner and even start a business or anything like that, because my goal is just to build a portfolio of real estate right now. And all these deals is just income for me to get through before I build my portfolio. And then when he finally convinced me to partner, he was like, well, let's just do them together. We'll make more money. And then you can just invest your money into the real estate. So, it was a much longer conversation, but that's what it boiled down to. But I told him in the beginning, I don't want this to be an actual business then. I want it to just be a hustle and we just make money.
Yeah.
And we just
Okay.
put deals together.
Why did you feel that way? You don't want to be committed?
I didn't,
Non-committal?
so I didn't think that it could be systemized enough.
Right.
Because it's just so people dependent, right? And you have to be so infused into your business, which up to this day, it proves to be right.
Yeah.
That like wholesaling is one of the most difficult businesses to build, with the fact that you have to hire salespeople that are a very specific type of salespeople.
Right. Very specific. Yeah.
So I just couldn't see, the light at the end of the tunnel. So I said, the focus and the goal is just going to be making money and reinvesting profits into real estate.
Yeah.
Which is what we have done up to a certain point. But then at one point we sat down, we're hustling all the time. There has to be a way to just put this all in a system and put all of this into something that is not going to require as much of our time as it's requiring right now. So we had a meeting. We rented an office at Regency.
In San Marco.
Yeah, in San Marco. And we had a meeting. We sat down and we started figuring out, okay, well, what are the departments of the business? Who's handling these departments?
And this was just the two of you.
The whole system
on a whiteboard.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we started writing it all down. We started creating the document for it. We started thinking of bringing people in. We hired a VA at that time who basically became our admin.
No, we hired Randy first, the VA who was making calls for us.
At first, yeah.
Yeah. And we weren't even at that point, we were like, okay, he'll make calls for us. He'll give us the hot leads. Then we could just focus on those hot leads.
Yeah.
But we were still trying to do so much other stuff that we weren't able to manage him properly. So he wasn't doing anything for us.
Right.
So it kind of wasted 2 months of our time, which is where the whole I don't know if we should have
though.
Right. It was a learning.
It's a learning.
Yes.
It's all the
very much so.
mistakes, all the ups and downs are definitely okay, this doesn't work, but this works. This doesn't work. You got to do it.
The real switch happens when you realize, or when you start putting the blame back on yourself.
Right. Ownership.
It's 100% your fault.
If that guy's not succeeding, it's not his fault. It's your fault.
Well, that was the thing, is we didn't spend any time with him, and then we're like, man, this guy sucks. And we're like, but we didn't teach him anything. We didn't work with him. If he hit us up, we barely answered because we were so busy.
Right.
We're like, dude, I don't even have time to really chat with you right now. So I'll get back with you in 15 minutes, and then we would get into the next thing, and you just forget,
Yeah.
But then we did end up hiring our admin, who was helping us kind of alleviate some of those tedious tasks that were just tying us up more.
Right.
Yeah.
But the switch of starting putting the fault in your court is what drives you to actually put systems and processes in place. Because if you hire somebody and you pay them to do a job and you expect them to do the job and complete it, then you're a complete fool and you will never succeed in life.
Yeah.
You have to make it so specific and so narrow for people, and you have to reiterate and enforce, and every task.
And you saw it at DJ and Lindsay, so you knew what it takes to build a team.
Yeah. It's like a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a
Which is so funny because we always said I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to do what they deal with, because they're managing 60 to 80 people at a time, and they're just basically they were barking at people because that's how much it took to get people to do what they needed, to make their phone calls. You got to think 20,000 incoming leads is a lot of money, and when you're giving somebody 100 or 200 leads and they're not making 30 phone calls a day, you're pissed.
Yeah.
So they would basically just got to the point where they were just barking at us because it was such a hot market. And we were like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to motivate people and teach them how to do this. But we realized that's really what the most important thing was for us to do. And we were consistently working with a lot of the same agents. So how do we systemize these individuals into our business without necessarily giving them any of the business or making them employees? So it was a unique switch for us that we were trying to figure out and understand on our end.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's actually funny because since then, our entire business model, as far as bringing leads in or bringing deals in, has kind of changed. Because we still do deals with people that we know, But now a lot of it is incoming deals or the AI outreach that we do.
Yeah.
And it's a lot
Well,
PPC.
do you feel like maybe that has to do with the market? Like kind of when the market was like shifting. So what made you shift from, because there's a lot of people out there that like their whole business is just focused on agents,
Yeah.
right? Like they're just getting deals from agents. So what was your shift then? You went from, you were door knocking, getting deals from agents, and then now you're moved to inbound leads.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is that, and I think it's a mistake that we did so many switches.
Yeah.
So when something's working and you're making money, you should not try to go and do something else.
Yeah.
So for us, the agent model was working, but we were constantly, because with us, the agent model, it was working and we were making good money, but it was inconsistent.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, how many times can you check in with that one person to try to get a deal out of them?
And you're relying on someone else
You're relying on
to
them
get a deal.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're relying on their lead flow to pick something off of it, right? And you don't have your own. And we constantly try to build our own instead of just trying to expand that lead flow and, the amount of agents that we talk to. So we started cold calling, we started text blasting, we even did some mailers, and we were getting so little results out of the other things that we were doing compared to, what we were doing with agents. But then every time we went back to agents, it was inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
So we've, not been able to systemize it to the point where it's like it's so many agents that it is consistent, right?
Okay.
And that would have been probably the right approach. But the switch of basically trying to do the incoming PPC leads and AI leads. Well, the AI leads came about from the fact that we just hopped on that opportunity.
Okay, so you said that you kind of like when you guys systematized everything, you got your Podio, then you're like, okay, let's do some texting and mailing and cold. So now you're already doing the agent thing and you're trying to like put that in there. I mean, I think everybody goes through this. You want to have multiple marketing channels, but then it's like, so then how do I manage all of that? Okay, so you're getting a little bit of a result here and a little bit of a result here. Right. So then, okay, you're starting to focus more on the inbound leads. So how do you are you testing out these different marketing channels and figuring out what works and what doesn't? Or you're
just throw money at it and see if it works. That's how we did it.
That was pretty much how it went. And then
if it works, great. If how long would you give it?
Yeah.
We would complain in like 1 month. This sucks.
This doesn't even work. It's only been 4 weeks.
Yeah. Like with texting, that was right around when it started to get really weird with texting.
Yeah.
And they started making all these changes. So we're like, man, we're not getting anywhere with these people. Like, this isn't working and it's already becoming difficult. Okay, forget about this one. Let's try something. Let's try the next thing.
Yeah.
And then, that we wouldn't get the leads we wanted, but we'd been doing it for 2 or 3 months. We're like, okay, that doesn't work either. Let's go to the next one. It, very foolish on our part because each method has a different way to work it. But what we realized was like going back to what DJ Lindsay had is like these people were coming to them for a service, and it was like that's what we need to do is we need to become the authority and they need to come to us because when we go to them, they or the first thing they want to do is like push you away. It's just like when you go into a store, people are always like, hey, can I help you with anything? No. And then immediately 30 seconds later, like, do you have this in a large in the back? And they're like, I literally just asked you if you need help. So they're kind of the same way. Like, I see you have a tarp on your roof. It looks beat up. Do you want to sell your house for cash? No. And then follow up for 6 months and all of a sudden they're ready to do a deal. So this way we figured would shorten that 6-month window.
So you moved towards the inbound leads.
Yeah, that was kind of the thing. And we tried PPC for 3 or 4 months with somebody. It was a good company. They had other real estate companies that they were doing business with, but we really didn't understand how to handle the leads. And we were kind of a one-trick pony at that time, just making cash offers, which was still at a time where the market was like weird and some houses would sell really fast still within like a week, but then some wouldn't. So we didn't figure out like how do we get these people to like lower their price enough that we can make it make sense. And we spent like 30 grand and we were like, we haven't closed any deals. We're done with PPC now. Doesn't work for this type of market. So we crossed that one off the list. And we went back to the agents and just trying to see what else we could do. Still working those PPC leads to see if there was anything there. And a buddy of mine came across something with AI, with Talking AI. I don't know if you're familiar with AIR when that came out.
Mm-mm.
So he went to an AI conference for real estate in Vegas, and he calls me up. He's like, dude, this is crazy. They have Talking AI. It's doing all this stuff. You should hear it. So he sent me the information, and I was like, could you imagine if this was making our phone calls and we wouldn't have to train that guy? We wouldn't have to deal with all of that. So I showed it to him, and at this point, we were working out of Gary's garage. And Dom had just joined because he had just sold Cash Geeks, and he was coming in as the guy trying to give leads to agents in the office. And his whole pitch was, go to them with cash, and when they deny you, list their house for them. And I'll just take a 25% split as a referral fee to you. And that was his whole pitch.
Okay.
And it was kind of smart. We're like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you're going to lowball them and be like, all right, cool, I'll list it for 80 grand more. You're like almost always going to get those listings. Nobody did anything with those over at the brokerage.
And he was just using VAs.
Yeah, he was using VAs.
Yeah, because he used VAs before, right?
So he and I think like the first 5 deals he gave us, we locked up 3 of them. And he was like, oh shit, you guys are actually doing something with this.
Yeah. Like, oh, my team never did this.
So he was like, let's start a VA lead generation business. We're like, no, like we're wholesaling. And I'm sitting there saying to him, I'm like, we actually need this because we don't have a channel to bring in consistent business. And he just brought us 5 leads and we got 3 of them closed. So
yeah, that's a good ratio.
We got to figure this out, how we do it. And he's like, that's a whole new business. It's going to kill us.
Most of the ideas that Louis brings, I just shut him down.
Always. And I have to beat him down over time.
Yeah. So he's like, he always wants to do this, all the new opportunities. And I'm like, nope. And then after like a certain amount of time of, convincing and him staying persistent on that one idea, then we would, okay.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah. So I'm able to figure out how to break through with him, and that's basically the method.
It also probably helps you go back and think about like why did he say no? Yeah. Like let's think about how to kind of make this better and what value can it bring to him and to our business.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at that point we're like, okay, forget the VAs. If we can do the AI with these calls and they're going to do the same thing that his VAs are doing, that would be really sweet. So that's kind of how we partnered up with Dom. And at first, we were like, look, we want to do something kind of with the wholesale and kind of with the AI stuff. And he's like, absolutely not. Don't want to do wholesale. Don't care. Not interested. Nothing. And we're like, dude, you have so much experience. Like, you could really teach us some shit and help us kind of create the channels that we need for incoming. Nope, don't want to do it. Only want to focus on the AI. So we're like, all right, cool. We'll just do both.
But he was mind blown by the AI.
Yeah,
he was ready to fire all the VAs. Because as soon as we showed it to him, he's like, yeah, everybody can be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, like pretty quickly. So then the next thing was we're like, well, how do we build this? We know none of us know anything about computers. We didn't really want to spend a ton of money because we talked to a few people and they're like, okay, $250,000, $500,000. We're like, that's not happening. Yeah. So we're like, how do we figure this out? How do we make this work? And it took like a year for us to build
9 months. Yeah, we shut down the wholesaling business.
Yeah, we shut it completely.
Much.
We were doing about almost $100,000 a month, and we just shut it down.
Yep.
And it was me, him, and another
to just work on this.
Yeah.
To work on the AI.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Because we thought it would be like wildfire because of what it could accomplish. Because when we were doing the demo calls, we're like, wow, it's actually like working. Like, yeah, it's a little weird.
Like seeing some Facebook posts of Dominic like putting
the calls.
Just starting to put some of those out there. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. What's he up to?
Yeah. And it was interesting how many people would talk to it, how long they would talk to it for, and then like what they would say. And we had a house where the lady's like, it had called her, got through at the right time. We got on the phone with her, and he's like negotiating a deal with her. And she's got 6 phone calls from wholesalers calling her while he's negotiating a deal with her. And we're like, we were able to make it because the AI called her relentlessly until she was willing to set up a meeting.
Yeah, the human doesn't do that.
And they wouldn't have done that. And the other thing we were facing too was like the language barrier and everything. So power outages, things like that. So
with the VAs.
With the VAs. So with the AI, it was just so much easier. And then at DJ and Lindsay, they had AI texting. So I already saw the AI texting and I knew what it was capable of and how many deals they were doing with the AI texting. So I'm like, dude, if we can get the calls and the texting, we like could just wait for these things to be lined up for us. And so we eventually got Peter, who was a previous Cash Geek employee, to help us build it out and kind of create everything. Took 9 months, like he said.
So 9 months every day, you're just coming into the office
and
and
just working on the
figuring this out.
Yeah.
But the thing is that nobody thinks how much effort it takes to actually build a real business where you will have all the legalities in place. You'll have your policies and the privacy policies in place. You'll have a Stripe account. You will have all the folders and everything systemized. You'll have accounting in place. You'll have, your books in place. And then that's just the admin side of things. Then you have the product. Then you have the marketing of that product. Then you have the product doesn't work and it's new and nothing like this has been done before. So it was just everything that we didn't think about has happened. And for 9 months, like basically we couldn't work on the wholesale deals because we had to, finish.
So what were you doing with the leads that came in?
We didn't have, well, when people would call us, we would still try and put deals together. But other than that, we basically shut everything else down. And then,
and we still had 1 or 2 deals come here.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
But we just weren't doing
So when was this?
23.
Yeah.
This was
the
23.
The full 2023.
Okay.
August is when we started, and then I guess like sometime June of 23 is when we finished.
So when you finished, and then when you finished, what happened?
That was version 1.
Then you're like,
but that was version 1 of the product.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
it still had its bugs and issues.
It still had bugs and it still had issues. And then we started getting clients for the product, and we started selling the AI. And the biggest thing that we realized is that everybody who is working these leads sucks. Because we started giving these leads to people.
Yeah.
And nobody could do anything with them. We would barely get like 1 or 2 people to close these leads. And we're like, that's impossible. Because we would go back and listen to the call with the AI that the AI had with the seller, and we're like, this is a good lead.
Yeah.
The person said, yes, I want to sell my house. They said, yes, I want to sell very quickly, 14 days, and I want cash. I don't want to deal with realtors.
Yeah.
Why is this a bad lead? And like everybody would complain, these are bad leads. I don't like these leads.
Yeah.
And that's where all leads
all leads suck. Yeah. That's where it's like, no, you suck.
Yeah.
Leads don't suck. You suck.
Well, we had a really good coach in South Florida who's actually been on the podcast, Mr. Acquisitions. He had like 5 or 6 of his people on our system, and they were complaining to him like, oh, you had us get this thing and it doesn't even work. He's like, cool, give me a lead right now. His first phone call he made, locked the person up, they made 40 grand. And he's like, the leads don't suck. You guys just aren't doing shit.
Yeah.
So then one of his people tried to cancel on us, and we're looking through the system. We're like, dude, you didn't even call these people. You sent 1 text message through the entire thing, and you want to say the leads suck? Like, you're not even trying, And they're like, well, I just don't understand, and that's not what we're looking for. We want them to be more like open to us. And we're like, they've answered all these questions. They did all these things, but you texted them, hey, whatever, instead of just picking up the phone and dialing and talking to them.
Yeah.
And that's when we were like, okay, we have to get more involved and kind of show people what to do or how to do it, because we just were realizing like we're going to give these people leads. And that was the first version, was giving people leads. And then them complaining that leads weren't good. So we're like, cool, we'll make it so you can get the leads and you can customize it the way you want. And you can't say that it doesn't work, because we've built it and we've allowed you to customize it now. So it's really on you if you're not making it work.
What that means is we just give them the CRM and they choose how many calls they want the AI to make. And we tell them if it makes 1,000 calls, it will generate this many leads, like 20 leads. So have the AI make 1,000 calls, you'll get 20 leads in the system, and then you can call those leads.
Yeah.
And we don't give you leads, we give you the system to generate the leads.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So that's smart. So
that
you
was version
switched
2.
from, you were actually handing people the leads from your AI.
We were emailing.
Now you're giving them their own AI.
Yes.
And they're generating the leads.
Correct.
That's good.
So that way they can't come back to us and complain, because you've generated these leads.
Yes.
They'd be like, oh, your script didn't do this. Oh, it didn't ask this question. We're like, that's so irrelevant. But if that's what you want, we're not going to do it for everybody, but we'll do it for you. So then it was like, well, let's just give it to him and he can do it, you know? And then that, you know, if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. And most people just have kept our stuff and just ran with it. And the people who use it and who actually like follow up and do the work, they're super successful.
Yeah. Okay. So that changed everything then.
Yeah.
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
But people would still complain.
Of course,
Right.
she's always going to complain. Yeah.
And from there, it was kind of like, okay, we need to get back into wholesaling because that's really our business. And in order to kind of prove, everybody was so skeptical about AI, right? Because it's just so new. So we're like, we don't have enough of a following for people to just hop on this product. It's going to cost a lot of marketing dollars to bring a ton of people in. But if we start wholesaling and showing people that it works, eventually it's going to catch on. And so that was kind of the game plan. Like, let's just wholesale again. Let's record everything. Let's start putting it out there in social media and let people know we use AI to do it, but we are doing these deals. Because at the time, people would be like, oh, how many deals do you do? And we're like, actually, we shut down our wholesale so that we could focus on this to make the best thing for you guys.
Yeah. You need to be the user of your product.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's pretty much where it was like, okay.
It's kind of like, to me, like somebody who's teaching what they're not doing.
Yes.
You know, like how can you know when you're not doing it?
Right.
You got to do it.
Right. So that's kind of where that came into. And then it was like, how do we like Zoom and live? He really wanted to do like lives on Instagram and TikTok and stuff. And then it was like, why don't we just set up a Zoom with the people who are already in the group and kind of help them as much as we can. And that's kind of where all leads.
Because we initially started the Zooms that we do at 1 p.m. for just people that were our clients.
Okay.
Because we were like, if you're going to complain about leads, I will prove to you that the leads don't suck and I can lock them up.
Yeah.
And it does work.
Yeah.
So that's how we started. But then we were like, why would we just limit it to them? Let's just show it to the world that it's possible.
Yeah.
So that's how.
Exactly. Here's the lead. Close the deal.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe you guys can answer this last question. I saw a post on Facebook and they were like pretty much slamming wholesaling, like wholesaling's too hard, this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of people that want to get into wholesaling. So I want to know like what your thoughts are. You know, somebody wants to get into real estate and they don't have a lot of money, or they do have a lot of money. Like, what are your thoughts about getting into wholesaling? And, you know, hey, you're selling your AI, so you probably better say some good things about it. But no, I want to know. Yeah.
We're going to have two complete different answers.
Okay, you guys answer. I want to hear.
If you want to wholesale and you want to get into wholesaling and you think that it's hard, you're absolutely right. It's super hard. You should not get into wholesaling. It's absolutely impossible to get deals. It's super, super hard. And you have to be the 1%, and you have to be willing to go through so much crap and shit and no's and people telling you that you're stealing their house and literally all the worst things that you think are going to happen, times it by 10. And that's what's going to happen.
Okay.
So
don't get into wholesaling.
Don't get into wholesaling. Wholesaling is not for everybody. You should not get into this business. It's harder than fix and flipping houses.
Yes.
Because if you fix and flip houses, all you need to do is construction and just buy houses. That's all you need to do. You don't need to find deals. You don't need to vet sellers. You just find a wholesaler that has the deals, buy the deals from them, and just do construction. That's all you do. Right? Wholesaling is 10 times harder than fixing and flipping, and it's probably one of the hardest businesses out there.
Yeah.
That would be my answer.
Okay.
And that's based on every single person I've interacted with that was trying to run a wholesale business, because most people are going to go through the curve of, I have these expectations that the grass is so green over there and I'm going to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 checks. And that's what, Alex Hermosi calls uninformed optimism.
Yeah.
And most people are in the phase of uninformed optimism. Unless you're willing to go through the informed pessimism phase, which is where you find out that this is super tough and it's super hard. And it's almost impossible to succeed because there's so much competition and there's no barrier to entry, basically. You're going to fail. And 98% of people are probably going to fail. So that would be my answer.
So they actually said 90%. So you say 98%.
I'm going to say 98%.
So, but wouldn't you think that about most other businesses, or do you not? If you want to get into real estate, then how would you get into real estate?
I would try to, so the best way, in my opinion, to get into real estate is to have a high-paying job, no finances, and take a big portion of your income and just invest into properties, and then just have real estate portfolio appreciate, accumulate, depreciate, whatever it's doing. Just take a portion of your income and reinvest.
Well, then that just limits people being able to get into real estate, because then they think they have to have money.
Right.
And you don't.
But here's the thing. 98% of people that get into real estate fail.
Right. It's like 90.
And that's why they don't have money.
That might be exaggerated.
I had no money when I started this.
Correct.
And here I am.
And that might be exaggerated, but is that true?
It is true.
Yeah.
So 98% of people then should not get into real estate. Now, if you are part of the 2%, then you absolutely should get into real estate, and it's a super lucrative field, right? But you have to be willing to be that 2%, because being average in real estate is not worth it.
Right.
And expecting high results and expecting that, you know, you can get in and start making $20,000, $30,000 without the sheer persistence is just not worth it, because you'll just fail and you'll say leads suck.
Yeah, all leads suck. All right.
So
Get you. All right, Louis.
My perspective is a little bit different. As a 2-time college dropout, it's really hard to get high-paying jobs without being in sales or without owning your own business. As far as getting into real estate or like wholesaling, the bar to entry is so low that the concern that I have is that people don't educate themselves appropriately to get in, and they end up creating issues for the rest of us who actually understand the business. So the biggest thing that I would say is do get involved in real estate, get involved in wholesaling, get involved in sub 2, but make sure you're involved with a mentor who can help you, kind of like the approach that Pace has, where it's like join the group and have people help you through this transaction, learn from them, and just take a small piece, because the knowledge is going to be worth more than the money. And when you have the knowledge to execute on your own, go out there and make the money.
That's so much more encouraging.
That's the way that I think it is. Now, we've dealt with a lot of people.
Now, did we say the same exact thing?
You did. You did.
Now, we've had a lot of people who have brought
But
really
he said
bad,
it so much prettier.
yeah, who have brought a lot of bad deals to us, and who have actually like ruined sellers because they have this high expectation of a number that doesn't make sense, and we know how to make the deal work. But I think that by following the right people's lead, you can learn those things and go out on your own. And the question is like, are you going to? Because with all the agents we've worked with, you have no idea how many hours I've spent educating them. Not one of them does deals on their own. And I know we've done deals with people who've done 20 deals with them. They've never even asked anything in the process. They just want to get paid. And since we haven't done deals with them, I would say 9 out of 10 are either not in real estate, or they're hitting me up saying, I'm struggling. What are you guys doing for business?
Yeah.
And it's just because, like you said, the work ethic has to be there, but also the skill set. And, you know, at least with your real estate license, you have to get a license. It's not necessarily that easy. I mean, it's pretty easy, but it's only like $2,000. You get your license, you do the 60 hours of studying.
And you
take
feel
your
like you
tests.
learn enough to like know some of the rules, and then
Exactly.
versus like wholesaling, it's just the Wild West.
It is.
Anybody can do it and go in and
Yes.
Okay.
And that's the concern I have, is because when you have that formal education on real estate, you really have certain things that you can work with and a certain understanding, and then you can go learn all of these other techniques, and they make so much more sense, like sub 2 and wholesaling. It just makes so much more sense to you, and I think that's where you're able to kind of make that transition. And I think the easiest way, in my opinion, is not to have the W-2 job. I think that's like being in prison. But I would say go work for a super successful team, because they will shove so many leads down your throat, you won't be able to breathe. And you won't see your family for 90 days to 6 months, but you'll do a shitload of deals, and you'll understand rather quickly. Like you said, you did 40 or 50 deals in 1 year. Most agents do 2 deals their first year, their second year they do 10. That's the trajectory. So if he's doing 40 or 50
I
in
didn't know
12
that.
months,
2 deals your
yeah,
first
2
year,
years your first year. If you're not on a
and
team,
he's
that's
over here.
the expectation. Typically, one of those 2 deals is a family member's or your own home purchase. That's typically how that first year works out. And so he did 40 or 50. I think I did the same, really, almost 40 or 50. And that understanding just helped so much more on the wholesale side, because wholesaling has so many nuances. You're not dealing with nice, pretty houses. You're dealing with people in foreclosure. They owe taxes, whatever. They just had a family member pass away, and you have to solve this super difficult problem. Make sure that the price is right and get it to the right person so that they can make money. And
so that's what you guys want to do. You want to like help people that are like already in the industry, like turn their, because you guys have your sales calls. Like, what is your goals? Your with like your sales calls and your AI. Like, what are you trying to do? What's your purpose?
So I feel like there is a lot of people that would tell you it's super easy and you don't need money and you don't need cash and credentials and anything. You really need nothing and you can just get in.
yeah,
Because I feel like it's misleading for most people, because those are true statements for the 2%.
Right.
But when you say those things, you're not talking to the 2%. You're talking to the, majority of people in the masses, and the masses don't have that knowledge and the skill set. And so I don't really care whether you're, gonna be, um, having experience or not having experience, as long as you have the right expectations and you don't feel that it's easy, I feel like you'll make it. And the fact that, you know, sheer persistence will beat talent, I think 10 out of 10 is what brought me to, being able to close 15 deals a month right now. It's not because I'm super smart. It's not because I, know more about real estate than, Sally down the street. It's just because I show up and I make my calls. And if people tell me no, I don't care.
Yeah.
I actually want people to tell me no most of the time, because I know I'm doing something right. If everybody tells me yes, then I'm probably overpaying for deals.
Yeah.
So, I think that if you are in the space, the most important thing is to have the right expectations and not listen to the advice just broadly, because the majority of the advice out there is you can do it with no cash. You can get into real estate with basically no education and no experience, and you practically need nothing to get started, which it is true, but it's not going to work for most people.
It sounds like a dream. It's like it's one of those things that yes, but yes, it's too good to be true. Like both and.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think for me, the goal is kind of to teach people that they can have financial independence. Like I said, being a college dropout, I didn't know how I would get there. My family does well, but they're not like super wealthy or anything like that. So the goal for me is to get to that point and to be able to teach others that they can do that. A lot of my idiot friends back home, they don't want to take those risks because they feel like they're putting themselves out there too much. But I always try and tell them, like, you have to get out, you have to try this stuff, because it is very difficult. But I know that if you just put the work in, you'll do well. What people don't realize too is like he is a smart kid, but he genuinely works 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Like genuinely. Now he does take a week vacation every 6 months or 10-day vacation every 6 months, but he works 7 days a week, and he expects the same from Dom and I as well. But that's really what separates him from being able to be successful from others, is that he's putting in the time when others aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's really the most important thing for people, is if you put the time in, it all comes into place. Like the same way that you came about, and like you just put the time in and the energy and the effort, and that's really the most important thing of it all. Is spending that time, because you're not going to get rich overnight, which I've always thought we'll get rich overnight. We got a ton of money, Oh, the money's gone. Oh, we just bought a property. We're going to make a ton of cash flow. There's not a lot of cash flow. It's like I begged him to buy houses and flip houses, and afterwards I was like, dude, do not ask me to buy any more houses. I'm done with
What
this
happened
shit.
when you were asking me to buy houses and flip houses?
Oh, he was like, absolutely not. And I'm like, dude, come on, we have to. People will know we're legit if we're actually closing on them. We're not assigning them. Like, people always break our balls. I'm like, let's just do the deals. And then after we did a couple, I'm like, no more. I'm done. I never have any money. I'm always putting money in. We work nonstop because we have to make money to put more money in. And it's like, when's the money come back? But obviously it always comes back, but it sounds so nice when people are like, no money down and make cash flow every month and live life traveling
We all know
in the
that's
wilderness.
not
And it's
true.
like, no, that's not true. So
I do think it is true, but you have to have a concept of, or you have to understand the concept of delayed gratification.
Right.
Well, and it's my biggest pet peeve when people put out there like all the good things and
they don't talk about
all of the bad things. I don't like that because the highs are as high as the lows are low. Lows are as low as the highs are high.
Oh, yeah.
And it could happen in a second, and so I like when people are realistic, like, yeah, this can work, this can happen, but it is blood, sweat, and tears and mistakes and failures and comebacks and all the in between. So
yeah, we so just kind of to jump in on that, we've always seen people put like in their bios and stuff, their property count, equity, how much they've sold and all of that. And it's kind of become a joke to us because we'll look at people's profile and they'll be like, oh, $100 million in equity or 500 rental units. We're like, do you really own 500 rental units? Because I've seen you on the phone, I'm in your CRM, and you're not closing that many deals. So I don't know how you have 500 right now. It doesn't, something's not adding up, right? And so we've just gotten to the point where it was like, we used to try and
be real,
become the authority and be real and like be like, look, we only have this many doors, but we're genuine about it. And we just got to the point where we're like, you just have to be so outrageous now. So I think like recently we just put in our bios like $2 trillion in assets. Like just the most outrageous thing because we figure like, you know what, like nobody really gives a shit. And at least this way, like we could just make fun of it in the sense of like, we just want to be real with
Louis
you.
also said he sold every house in the United States twice.
Yeah, because like, I think I looked at Sir and he's like $60 billion on his bio. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. Like, what are you still working for if you did $60 billion in transactions? And it's probably real, but like for us, it's like, I don't know. I feel like every time we hear it, and I hate to say this, but I think this is what actually broke us, is somebody that we all like and respect very much, pitches pad split very heavily. We already brought up his name. And when we found out that we had more pad splits than he had, we were heartbroken.
Yeah.
It was like finding out that Superman isn't really Superman.
Yeah.
And we were just like, you know what? People are using this for marketing and they're bringing these people in, and like we don't want to do that. We want to be real with them and give them the shit that they need to know. And I think that's what's allowed us to kind of build our network, is like people know we're just not fluffing them. We're really out here trying to do the best we can, and we know there are times we do good and times we do bad.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
Reverse podcast. Here's a little different.
How about, okay, so now just one last question. I know we had to end it. So you told me the other day that at any given time you have about 25 deals in escrow.
Yeah.
So what does that look like on a monthly basis? Like, what is the wholesale business bringing in now on a monthly basis on average, like a little range?
It has been going up consistently. So I've jumped on the phones only for the last 3 months, 2 or 3 months, I think. Because before that, when we've built the AI and we've built the PPC campaigns, we try to bring in salespeople and we try to just teach them. And I would just do the trainings. And
that didn't work.
Yeah. And the salespeople that we brought in were really good. Both of them had experience. One of them was a closer that has done over 800 transactions, but they just couldn't do it. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a different market. I don't know if it's just different people, but we were just fed up. So we ended up basically parting ways with them and decided that the best way, at first we were trying to like, okay, well, how can we open a wholesale hub and not really have them as employees? And maybe there's some kind of a split that does work and maybe we have to give them more money. but we just realized everything boils down to the concept of all leads suck, which really means operators suck.
Right.
So we just decided we just need to build the most badass wholesale company, or most badass real estate investment company that will be operated by people who know exactly what they're doing, and they will show up every single day, which was just us.
Right.
Okay.
So when I started jumping on the phones, I started locking up deals day one.
Yeah.
So I put together, I think, like 5 deals the first month, and it turned to be like around 70 grand.
Okay.
Second month, I think we did about.
I have the exact numbers. I know exactly what it
Okay.
is.
What
Okay.
He started June 26th on the phones
Okay.
till today. I've been doing it I've been in acquisitions for probably about a month. In that time frame, we've done almost $740,000 in transactions
Wow.
in 90-ish days.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, previously to that, we did like 40,000 with our team. And I think that's what made us realize, like, in the first month, I think it was actually 12 contracts that he locked up, and it was like 260 or 280. And then the next month, it just exploded from there. And we were like, okay, we just have to do this. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason to start a team if we can just continue to do this. And essentially, what made us realize that too is Dom had basically said the 3 of us were doing the equivalent of what Cash Geeks was doing, basically, in transactions.
And
Wow.
Cash Geeks
And had 60 employees.
yeah,
almost.
60 people working there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it just
So
came from.
$700,000 in the last 3 months, but you haven't closed it all yet.
No, we haven't closed it all
But
yet.
that's kind of what's in escrow.
Yeah, right now we have
Projected.
We have 14 under contract that we've locked up in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, and we have nine or 8 that are marked to close. And I think last week we did about $200,000 in closings.
Wow. That's awesome.
I actually have the checks on my desk.
3 guys working hard, making it happen. All right. Well, thanks. That's all I wanted to know. Had to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on board, and
We appreciate
yeah,
you.
we'll love to do more of these with you. in the
Yeah.
I
future.
think we just need to keep bringing you on as a guest.
Yeah, I
Like
love
a
that.
recurring
Come on.
guest.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Good job.
Sweet. See you later,
See you guys next time.